It is April 13, 1970. Three men are 32,000 miles from Earth, inside a spacecraft that has just suffered an explosion. First comes the bang, then the alarms. Oxygen begins escaping into space. Power drops, and the temperature inside the spacecraft starts to fall. Lowell, Swigert, and Hayes understand the situation before anyone has to see it. They are no longer flying a mission. They are flying to survive. And at the same time, in Houston, the engineers face a pure quality problem. A system that has failed, that is impossibly far away, with human lives at stake. The brutal detail is that they do not have the damaged spacecraft in front of them to interact with it. They cannot touch it, they cannot open it, they cannot test directly. They can only make an interpretation of data arriving by radio and work a solution from the ground. What Houston did to solve the problem, long before IoT sensors, artificial intelligence, or dashboards, was the seed of one of the most important technologies in modern industry, the digital twin. Today, I want to explain what a digital twin is, who formalized the concept, and who gave that name, and why that spacecraft in distress in 1970 still offers the clearest lesson about this value.
Welcome to Advanced Quality Programs with Juan Navarro. In this podcast, we're going to dive deep into the world of quality and leadership philosophies.
Let's start by understanding what is a digital twin. A technical definition would describe that as the virtual, real-time replica of a physical object, process, or system. A living model that uses data to simulate, analyze, and optimize its real counterpart without interfering with it. But that definition still misses the central idea. A digital twin is not just a traditional simulation. It is the difference with three things. It updates in real time, it evolves with the asset, and it helps you to anticipate what many people would think happen next. This definition is consistent with the contemporary scientific literature. And behind this are four components: the virtual model, the sensors and connectivity, and the platform that processes the data. The interface where people see, interpret, and decide. But that anatomy, the sensors, platforms, and algorithms are only the how. The more interesting question is the why, and why this way of thinking has come to life. If you ask who is usually credited for the digital twin concept, one name appears again and again. It's Michael Grieves. In his 2002 book at a Society of Manufacturing Engineers conference in Michigan, he presented and introduced the product lifecycle management framework. Now it is known as the PLM. That linked the physical product to the virtual counterpart through a continuous stream of data. He called the concept the mirrored space. The term digital twin came later, in 2010, while working with NASA on a technology roadmap. John Vickers helped to give the concept the name that we use today. Keep the distinction clear. Grieves formalized the concept in 2002 and NASA named it in 2010. But the underlying philosophy has already been proven decades earlier. So let's go back to 1970 and to that damaged spacecraft. The problem was not only that something had failed, it was also a component compatibility problem, the kind of issue quality professionals recognized immediately. After the explosion, the crew took refuge in the lunar module and used it as a lifeboat. But the lunar module had not been designed to support 3 people for several days. And a silent little problem started developing: carbon dioxide. Every breath added more CO2 to the cabin. The lunar module filters were designed to sustain 2 people for 2 days. 3 people for 4 days were exhausting them. And it was happening rather quickly. The command module had spare filters, but they were square, while the openings in the lunar module, they were round. A square filter could not fit into a round opening. That small difference in shape was enough to put those 3 lives at risk. The engineers in Houston faced the same problem, but they had one advantage over the crew: identical parts as ground-based replicas of the spacecraft systems and a physical twin. On the table, using plastic bags, cardboards from flying manuals, hoses, and adhesive tape, they built improvised adapter, the famous mailbox, and they tested it on the ground. Again and again, it was a successful solution, and as it worked, they and only then sent the instructions to the space. The crew, with no more time, built the same device inside the spacecraft, following those instructions, and the CO2 levels returned to safe range. And the crew survived. What saved those men was a principle that still drives modern industry: sense, think, act, test before you break. Fail cheaply in the mirror so you do not fail expensively in reality. And that is the DNA of the digital twin. What Houston did in 1970 with mental conditions, with cardboard and adhesive tape, now the industry of today use it with sensors, data, and algorithms. The tools had changed completely, but the philosophy remains the same. This is the part that makes sense and the lesson useful, whether you work in manufacturing, quality, or continuous improvement. Today, Houston physical replica has become the digital, and the same logic is used in some of the most expensive machines of the planet. Rolls-Royce, for example, monitors aircraft engines in flight with a digital twin that receive real-time data from hundreds of sensors. In Formula One, for example, teams use digital twins, and these models that are updated thousands of times per second. Wind turbines simulate fatigue, wind loads, and wear to avoid unplanned shutdowns. It is the same pattern Houston used in 1970. Distance, complexity, and the impossibility of touching the machine are no longer excuses. They are exactly the problems the digital twin exists to solve. So the digital twin is not only an Industry 4.0 technology, it is a way of thinking about quality. Before changing reality, rehearse in the mirror. Before risking a process, a machine, or an expensive decision, ask whether you already have been testing enough, and if you have your own twin, a safe space where failure costs less. In the end, your legacy is not measured by the mistakes you had avoided, but by the decisions that you made right. And some of them you had rehearsed them before you make them. And that's it for today. Tell me in the comments whether the physical world and the digital twin already coexist in your work, or whether you are still making decisions blindly. Thank you for all your reviews of my books, The Quality Mindset, the Life Quality Projects, and the Principles of Quality. And without further ado, stay excellent, keep improving, and let us digitalize together.
One small change triggers everything. Watch how agile thinking works. Inspect, adapt, repeat. Each step builds the next, creating confident, unstoppable momentum. This is The Quality Mindset by Juan Navarro. Get your copy now.